Welcome back to the video series about my racing exploits with a historic Lotus Europa. This time I'll show you the biggest crash I had so far and talk about my struggle to get the car and my season back on track. Please subscribe if you like my videos. This happened in the middle of the season after it seemed that the Europa had finally proven to be a fast and reliable race car. The 4 races before that crash in Zolder went well and I was on track for a top 10 overall position in the Belgian National Championship. But in racing, you can never be sure. At 163 kph under full braking load, the left rear suspension broke and the car spun away. It completed a 360 with locking wheels and crashed into the concrete barrier with a remaining speed of 60 kph. The angle of impact was very fortunate and most of the energy was absorbed by the front left wheel, which transmitted it through the suspension into the strongest area of the chassis. As the driver, I did not experience any pain or harm. To stay in the top 10 race, I must not miss a championship round. With the crash, my drop scores were used up and I could not afford another 0-point score. For that, the car had to be repaired and race ready 8 weeks later. First, I needed to separate body and chassis and bring the body to a paint shop for repair. The suspension on the left-hand side was severely damaged. In the rear, the wheel hub carrier broke off the radius arm, which caused the crash. This failure was caused by fatigue. In the front, all left-hand suspension parts and a significant chunk of the chassis front section were bent. This bending metal absorbed a majority of the impact energy and kept my legs safe during the accident. Getting the T-section of the chassis back into its original shape was the hardest task of this repair job. But a setback can also be a chance. I decided to not just restore the car's former condition, but to upgrade the suspension all around. As one front and one rear damper were broken, it made sense to purchase 4 new dampers. The old ones only were adjustable in one way, while the new set can be adjusted in bump and rebound separately. For the chassis repair, I needed a facility to first pull it straight and later cut out the damaged section and weld in a new piece. For that, I could rely on Zeelen Engineering, who let me use their equipment. I pulled the front section of the chassis straight using 2 chain hoists attached to the suspension points. With a bit of heat, the box-shaped frame came back to its original shape. The dimensions and distances could be brought back to workshop manual spec surprisingly easily. After that, the damaged segment of metal was cut out and the inside condition checked. Some reinforcement was added there before the chassis was closed by TIG welding in a new piece of steel. The repair of the front suspension was a plug-in-and-play job. Lotus Supplies offers a nice tubular upgrade for the original suspension geometry, which I used to replace the original sheet metal wishbones. Also, the left-hand upright with trunnion and the steering rack had to be replaced. In the rear, the job was a bit more difficult. As we had replaced the hub carrier, stub axles and wheel bearings with stronger BMW parts in the past, I could not go for the plug-in-and-play option here. The area where the custom-built hub carrier and radius arm are connected is now reinforced with 5mm steel plates. The new radius arms are aftermarket from Lotus Supplies and new uniball joints can be bought as universal spare parts. The repair was completed by the freshly painted body, which had the front left corner of another body implanted. It was put back on the chassis 10 days before the upcoming race weekend in Assen. That sounds like plenty of time, but considering that all this went on besides my 9-to-5 job after work and on weekends, it was tough. In addition, there was no room in the budget for a crash repair, so I had to use my savings to get the car finished. Long story short, 8 weeks after the crash in Zolder, qualifying in Assen started at 1 p.m. on Friday. The car was on the trailer at 1 a.m. so that we could get at least a few hours of sleep before we drove off to the racetrack. We arrived there at 11 a.m. and were ready in time to qualify for the race. The weekend didn't go perfect, but it was a promising rollout and brought a bunch of championship points. At the end of the season, I finished 8th in the National Championship in front of 2 Ford GT40s and a bunch of other more powerful cars.